Mortgage Association. Fannie Mae is one of the biggest buyers of conventional mortgages here in the United States. Fannie and Freddie have had their troubles over the last couple of years, that I'm sure you're all aware of. So they have definitely made some changes as well. Fannie Mae started with some changes last year, and their little cousin Freddie Mac has followed suit. Basically, Fannie and Freddie pretty much mirror each other, so I'm going to kind of speak about both of them and not just one versus the other, because they pretty much, like I said, mirror each other. Fannie Mae has different types of projects. Steve brought this up the other day, and that's why I wanted to mention it. Fannie Mae actually does buy FHA loans, and so that's why you see FHA approved type U. Previously, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had a reciprocal relationship with FHA, so if the project was FHA approved, Fannie and Freddie would buy the loan all day long. Because of the changes that FHA has come up with, unfortunately, Fannie and Freddie have said, we're not going to honor the reciprocal relationship anymore. Any conventional loan has to meet our criteria, because our criteria is a little more strict than FHA. As you know, FHA only requires 30% pre-sale, where Fannie and Freddie require a minimum of 70, but we'll get into that in a minute. So Fannie Mae came out with their changes in December of 2008, and that is also in the handout, if I'm not mistaken, Steve, correct? Okay. Fannie Mae ineligible projects. Projects that include registration services offer rentals of units on a daily basis. Resort-type condominiums, hotel-type condominiums, anything that has short-term rentals, registration desks. You have a lot of these projects up in New Hampshire. I don't really think we have a lot of projects here in Mass. However, if it has any of those characteristics, it's not eligible for financing through Fannie or Freddie. Projects with names, hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. Yeah, I'm going to break into karaoke just to make sure everyone's paying attention. Projects that restrict the owner's ability to occupy a unit. Again, the hotel resort type of condominium, they won't accept. Projects with mandatory rental pooling agreements. Again, resort type hotel, they don't want them. Projects with non-incidental business operations owned or operated by the homeowners association, such as, but not limited to, restaurants, spas, health clubs, etc. Again, they really want the residential stuff only, period. Projects with investment securities, anything filed with Securities and Exchange Commission, common interest apartments or community apartment projects, timeshares, those houseboats that Steve was talking about earlier, ineligible. This is another important one. New projects where the seller is offering sale financing structures in excess of Fannie Mae's eligibility policies. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac allow seller contributions, depending on the loan to value, up to 9% of the purchase price. Previously, when developers were unable to sell units, they would try to entice the borrowers by paying their first 12 months of homeowners association dues above and beyond maybe paying their closing costs. That's unacceptable. So they were trying to pay principal and interest for the first 12 months, anything to try to sell the units. They were trying to entice the borrower. Unfortunately, that's not acceptable. That's deemed ineligible. Projects where a single entity owns more than 10%, same with FHA, same with Freddie. Multi-dwelling unit condominiums. Steve went by, spoke of that. Projects that represent a legal but non-conforming use of land. Zoning regulations that prohibit them to rebuild within that footprint, the original footprint, that's deemed ineligible. And I am going to touch upon this. Any project where the homeowners association is named as a party to a current litigation, or to which the developer is a party to current litigation that relates to the project, if the project hasn't been turned over. That's a big issue these days. A lot of litigation going on. If it impacts the safety and soundness of that project, if there's structural defects within that project, that's a huge concern. So that's what they're referring to. You have, you have these slip and falls. As long as the liability insurance can cover it, that doesn't deem it ineligible. So you really have to take the litigation sort of case by case. Fannie has different classifications of projects. New projects, at least 70% must be sold or under contract to owner occupants prior to closing. This could decrease to 51%. Fannie Mae has what they call condo project manager, which is a automated system that we use to run the condo through to see if it's deemed eligible. So the standard guideline is 70%, but could potentially get as low as 51%, but that's really on a loan-by-loan basis with that particular lender and that particular borrower. But it does exist. Projects can be phased, so you can approve based on, the pre-sale can be based on the phase and any previous phases, the aggregate of the previous and the current phase. The developer has not turned over the control of the association. That's deemed in a new project. Certificates of occupancy are required. Established projects. At least 90% of the units must be sold. There's no owner occupancy requirements if the loan is an owner occupied loan. If the loan is investment property, then a minimum of 51% of those units must be owner occupied. So owner occupied, no occupancy, owner occupancy requirements, investment property, a minimum of 51%. The control of the association must have been turned over to the unit owners. The developer cannot retain any ownership interest. The project is not subject to additional phasing as opposed to a new project which could be subject to additional phasing. Existing projects cannot. And the project must be 100% complete. Fannie Mae requires a minimum of 2 unit projects, and no more than 15% of the total units can be more than 30 days past due on their HOAs. Again, Fannie, Freddie, they follow the same rules. The project must be located on one contiguous parcel of land. Structures within the project must be within a reasonable distance from each other. These are just standard stuff. The units in the project must be held fee simple or leasehold, and the unit owners must have the rights to use the use of the project's facilities and common elements. Adequate budget. They must allocate 10% for reserves, including insurance deductibles. Insurance premiums, too, if they're not allocated separately as well. They require condominium docs, master deed, declaration, trust, bylaws. The completed questionnaire, which was not in the packet. And actually, the reason why it's not in the packet, every lender has their own. So I could give you, oh, it is in there? It is in there. It is in there.
That's good. That's good.
However, every lender has their own, so what we might deem acceptable, other lenders don't. I will say that, I don't know if it's your firm that put together that standard questionnaire?
Yes.
Oh, is that the one that's in there? Okay, yeah, so most lenders should accept that. A lot of them will say, we have to have it ours, it has to be on our letterhead. I mean, just argue that, you really don't need that, that's crazy. As long as that questionnaire answers the questions that you need, it's not necessary to have to jump through hoops to get another questionnaire.
Promise?
No, I can't promise anything. I would accept it, so you just should just send them to us, that's all.
Mortgage master promises.
Yeah, no, I promise. For Mortgage Master, yes.
Are these requirements currently in effect or is it effective date?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Are these Fannie Mae's current requirements?
Yeah, these are the requirements effective December of 2008. And Freddie, which was July of 2009. Okay, so beyond the questionnaire, we need the certificate of insurance, of course.